Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Your Excellencies. I'm so delighted to be with you today. My name is Eleni Giokos. I'm a correspondent and anchor at CNN, and we all know this incredible man sitting beside me. He is the Minister of Artificial Intelligence for the UAE. Minister, Your Excellency, lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. You're very kind with your introductions.
We couldn't do this without you. I don't think you're the only AI minister right now in the world, right? We've got one more.
Actually, I discovered this year, yes. There's another person in the world, the Minister of AI of Spain.
Fantastic. So you're not alone in this industry.
I've been alone for a long time. Finally.
Finally.
My prayers were answered.
So I have a suggestion. So as I was preparing for this conversation, what I did was I opened ChatGPT up and I put in a prompt, questions for the UAE Minister, Omar Olama. What should I ask him? Now you've got a choice. You can get me to ask you the questions, the robot questions, the AI questions from ChatGPT, or you can get the human questions. Which are you going to go for?
I would rather go with the controversial ones. Who's more controversial?
ChatGPT was not controversial whatsoever. So let's stick with my questions. How's that? Fantastic. Congratulations on many fronts. You've been recognized as Time 100's most influential figures for AI. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Minister Olama. You've also been selected by World Economic Forum as a member of the steering committee in AI Governance Alliance. The global dialogue has evolved dramatically this year. We've seen so many fears emerging, a lot of excitement, and a lot of money pouring into this sector. How are you positioning yourself into this dialogue, and importantly, in these vital strategic positions to come up with governance, given that you've been at this for a very long time, longer than most other countries have?
Thank you very much. It's first and foremost a pleasure and a privilege being with all of you here today. And I think it is timely that this assembly is an assembly on AI and generative AI specifically, because it is the topic of the hour. Everyone's talking about artificial intelligence openly. What is really heartwarming is the fact that for the first probably 4.5 years that I was on the job, I had to justify to people why I need to have a job. Everyone was asking me, what does a Minister of AI do, and why do we need that, and what is artificial intelligence, the hypothetical technology? Today, the debate is very different. The debate is, you guys were so far ahead, how can we catch up? The reality of the matter is, what we're seeing now is the beginning of a snowballing effect across industries. So this morning, I was with a group of the biggest retailers in the world talking about artificial intelligence and retail. And the honest answer is retail is going to be completely disrupted because of AI. And governance needs to be included in that debate because there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And I'll give you a simple example. If you want to become an important player in the retail industry and use AI, you need to collect as much data as you can on every single person.
That means privacy issues, right?
So there will be a lot of privacy issues. How do you ensure that you protect people enough that you don't hinder on their privacies, and you don't manipulate them using these systems, while at the same time not hindering innovation by letting someone else who starts a retail company in another country take over the retail giants or the retail players that's in your country? There are a lot of very intricate issues that need to be answered, and governments that are proactive, governments that have these discussions and dialogues, more proactively are going to lead the charge when it comes to shaping these systems.
Look, I've been reading a lot about some of the things that you've been saying regarding this industry regulation and governance, and I find it quite fascinating and frankly very relevant for you to be looking at artificial intelligence through the same lens as the energy transformation globally, whether it's coal, whether it's enrichment of uranium. And you make the parallels that, when we first started getting into those industries, there was no governance and regulation. Only when a minister of energy was appointed did we start seeing those changes. So where do you see this going? Because there's no global standardization or global framework regarding how to deal with this enormous monster that is AI.
That's a fantastic question. So just to refresh this piece of information for those of you who have not heard me say this before, There wasn't a single minister of energy when there were countries that were dependent on wood file and coal for their energy. Ministers of energy were appointed after oil and gas was necessary to keep the lights on and electricity became a fundamental requirement. The same as well was the case with regards to ministers of telecommunication, ministers of aviation, ministers of ICT. So every single time there's a technology that changes the world, there's a ministerial position that is created for it. Now, if you actually dig deeper into it, you'll see that the position was created after a big catastrophic event happened. So, do you know when the guidelines and the rules were put for aviation? After an airplane crashed into the Empire State Building in the 1920s. So in the 1920s, there was a person who was flying a military airplane. It's a B-29 bomber, I think. And it was a foggy night because there were no lights on buildings, because there was no radar systems or whatever. That person came head-on, full-on collision with the Empire State Building. Now, the building did not collapse. Some people lost their lives. But it made people ask questions. Why don't we have regulations for aviation? And then the regulations came to be. Now, my question is, we have not seen the catastrophic event when it comes to artificial intelligence. Should we wait? I advocate for us to be proactive because I think the scale of this is going to be unlike anything we've seen before. Now, on the governance discussions, and I'm probably an outlier here, I'm going to say something that's very, very controversial. People are saying we can govern AI. I think the discussions we're having on governance are non-starters. And what I mean by that is you can't govern artificial intelligence. It is impossible. And whoever tells me that they can is out of their minds. I say this, with a lot of humility. And I'll tell you why we can't govern it. Artificial intelligence is not one tool. It is not one capability. A self-driving car requires very different governance requirements than a large language model, than a computer vision system, right? So you can't govern the technology. You can govern the use cases, and you can govern them as verticals.
So it becomes a lot more complex in governing other sectors in the past, right? We can concede that.
I don't know why we're actually calling it a uniform, like why we're calling it artificial intelligence. Because self-driving cars are inherently very different to large language models. It's as if you're saying, I want to govern electricity. So anything that uses electricity will have the same governance requirement. A light bulb will have the same governance requirement as a treadmill. It's very difficult for you to do that. What you need to do is talk about them in verticals. So we're pushing for as the UAE. We need to govern things as verticals. So let's govern large language models for large language model use cases. Let's govern self-driving cars for self-driving car use cases.
I think we've all seen the open letter to put a moratorium on the development of AI. It was signed by Elon Musk. It was signed by Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple. The reality is that you even have some of the people behind AI signing this at the same time. By the way, people like Elon Musk pouring big money into the development of AI. So when this letter came out, and I'm sure many of you have seen it, were you also worried and afraid about what AI means?
I've been worried for a few years. Like, this letter didn't add anything to my fears.
Yeah.
But I will say this: there are different ways to be worried. Like, is anyone here worried about a meteorite hitting planet Earth and eradicating life? Yes, there is a fear. Do you guys live your lives under a bunker or a shielded environment? No.
Yeah.
We need to be pragmatic. There are fears that we need to be honest with ourselves and try to address and look at. However, look at Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is a great example here. He is trying to rally the public towards understanding the fears and the problems with artificial intelligence and the challenges as well. But he is investing billions of dollars in creating humanoid robots, in creating self-driving cars, in today running an AI engine, which is Twitter or X, and actually pushing the envelope and pushing the frontier. Because you cannot face challenges by taking a back seat. You need to be at the frontier.
But there's certain elements of AI that is clearly causing that fear. It's not all elements, as we have ascertained. It's a big range.
Autonomous weapons.
Yeah.
If I have a drone today that can decide to kill someone, and from a military perspective, it's a great thing for you to deploy. But then if this goes rogue, it's a big issue, right? So these are fears that we need to address and we need to look at. The only problem we have, people compare artificial intelligence to climate change. So the risk crosses borders, it's a big risk. I just want to ask you guys a question. How long did it take us to actually put a agreed upon governance framework for climate change globally?
We're still trying to do that.
So no, but the IPCC,
Yes,
okay,
they are, but I mean, we're still trying to decide on so much, right?
So they agreed on 1.5%.
Yeah.
Okay. When did they agree? They started the discussions in 1980. They agreed in the 2000s. It took them 20 years to agree. Can we wait 20 years to govern AI? I think it's going to be too late. So I fear, my biggest fear, is we're going to take too long to address some inherent
So
issues.
do you predict a potential crash or catastrophe like you've played out in previous industries? Do you think that's inevitable for AI to finally get regulators to come together, and what would that look like?
It's already happening.
Yeah.
And now the thing about it is it's about the level of catastrophe. So let me give you guys a few examples. And you guys actually might fall victim to this. So brace yourselves. So on the dark web, and I don't encourage anyone to go on the dark web, just to put it out there. On the dark web, there is a group called Group 66. And I'll tell you what they do, Eleni.
Yeah.
So you can actually buy a bot that is powered by a large language model. If you are the owner of a restaurant or the owner of a business, gender, so a male or a female, it will go online to some of the dating apps, make someone fall in love with it, generate images of women, okay, or men, okay, and then start a romantic relationship. Then within a few days, tell that person, we should go out for dinner or we should go to this shop together. Let that person go to the restaurant, order the most expensive dishes, okay, from that restaurant, and then say, oh, I'm running late, sorry, this won't work, thank you very much, and delete the account. This exists today, by the way. So you guys can be stood up, for example, for those of you who are into this, the dating scene, you can be stood up by an artificial intelligence engine, and you would not know what hit you. Now, this is not science fiction, it's not 2040, it's today.
Well, why would they do this?
Because if I'm a restaurant owner and I want to sell more.
So this is from the restaurants, right?
Yeah, like I would actually buy this bot. It's illegal, but there are use cases today that this is fraud, right? This is misleading people. There's another thing as well. Deep fakes are just getting started. And misinformation is just getting started.
It just sounds to me the range of dangers, right, are just so enormous to pinpoint. And this was what worries me about the regulatory framework. And one of the speakers before us was saying that, one actor woke up to hearing his voice in a documentary, and he definitely didn't track that documentary. And I refer to the Writers Guild strike in the US, actors and writers worried about what AI means, and they put that into their list of demands when they were negotiating. And I think everyone was scratching their head going, we don't even know what to put into this final document, because we just don't know what AI is going to do to the industries. So I guess the question that we've been asking ourselves, am I going to be replaced? Someone like me that's in the creative industry?
Well, in all honesty, I ask myself, will I be replaced? It's not just for people in the creative industry. And the fact of the matter is, you will be replaced if you don't embrace this technology. Okay. So I will share with you guys a thought. Do you know the difference? There's no dictionary in the world that will tell you the difference between the word complete and finished, right? But I want to give you a statement. If you adopt artificial intelligence in your life, you're going to be complete. If you do not, you will be finished. And if you try to reject it altogether, you'll be completely finished.
That's brilliant. I'm looking at my ChatGPT notes. I think we should, ask one of the questions from my prompt. There are a lot of things that are interesting in terms of what it came up with, and it really had to do with ethics around this and how the UAE is taking into consideration ethical violations, how you're dealing with that, and how you're working with other countries in order to deal with it. I thought that was a pretty good question. Well done, AI.
Yeah, excellent question. Although, I could expect this from AI. This is what it will ask.
Okay.
Look, our situation in the UAE is very different to many other countries. It's because we are a country of 200 nationalities. So if you come and tell me I'm going to create an ethical framework for any other country that has a big homogeneous society, it's very easy for me to actually say this suits my populace, this doesn't suit my populace, and I can do a small focus group and deal with it in a way that reflects the overview and the requirements of society as a whole. Here it's very different because I need to make sure that what is ethical is not just ethical for me, the person that's wearing the kandora, it's ethical for everyone in the room with their differences, with their uniqueness. And what we're trying to do in the UAE is the following. Some people are looking at this technology with the glitz and the glamour of it. So it's the silver bullet, it will solve everything, it will do everything, we'll just deploy it. We are thinking to ourselves and saying, okay, where can we deploy it in places or in different industries where there's very little controversy? So we don't want to go for controversial use cases today. Second is how do we ensure that quality of life improves rather than productivity? Yeah. So everyone's looking at it as a productivity gain tool. That is great, but the challenge with productivity gain is someone would actually replace you and would not be good for the quality of life of people. People like to interact with people. Like, for example, I could be sitting here and ChatGPT is asking the questions on the back, and I could answer them.
Yeah.
But it will not feel personal. There will not be the humor side of it. It's not going to feel like there's a good interaction.
And ChatGPT is just not as fun as I am.
And it's not as good looking as well.
Can't compete with that. Look, we've got a few minutes left and I've got a couple of questions. Let's quickly go through how society can change, transform for the better. What are you most excited about? And then we'll talk about what you're most fearing right now.
How many minutes do you have for this answer?
3:23.
Okay. Let me give you an equation for success. So the equation for success, and you can think about this in every facet of life. So I don't want to tell you that this is the one use case or the two use cases that are good. There was an equation that created all of the billion-dollar companies, all of the new technologies of the last 100 years, which is energy plus X equals success.
Yes.
And what that means is you can add electricity to anything, and you can create a multi-million or billion-dollar product or industry. So you can add electricity to glass and create a light bulb. You can add electricity to a carpet and create a treadmill. You can add electricity to wheels and you can create a car, or energy, right? Like it could be oil and gas or whatever. That was the equation for success in the last century. The equation for the success in this century is intelligence plus X. You can add intelligence to everything around you today. You can add intelligence to a light bulb and have the most efficient lighting system in the world. You can add intelligence to AC. You can add intelligence to any and every product that you think about. Now, intelligence, the difference between energy and intelligence can be added into every different, whether it's upstream or downstream of any business. So you can actually add it within your operations. Yeah. You can add it to manage your employees. You can add it on your product. You can add it to forecast new products or new designs. And I think here the use cases are infinite. It's on us to create them. And we will see that. Now, another thing that's happening is we need less for more. So if you think about it, the companies that were the biggest companies in the world 100 years ago were companies that had thousands of employees. Look at GE, for example, it's a good example. Look at 3M. Look at these giant companies with tens of thousands of employees that changed our world. Today we're hearing about companies with 12 employees worth 50 billion, 100 billion, 10 billion. Why is that? Because with the power of the technology that we have, you're able to create a lot more with a lot less human resources. And that will actually give an opportunity for all of us to create something that is meaningful, to create something that can have an impact and to change the world.
In terms of the thing that fears you the most, and you were talking about less human resources, I'm just thinking less jobs. That immediately comes to mind, but perhaps you can fight me on that one.
Look, I know it's going to be very controversial and it'll make headline news tomorrow if I say I'm not worried about job loss. So I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
I think job loss is a fear. My question is job loss indefinite? So if you lose your job today, will it mean that you will not find a job tomorrow? I do not think that is going to be the case. And I'll give you a simple example. The jobs that were created because of technologies that we use over the last 2 decades created jobs that we don't necessarily need. Like we do not need social media influencers in our lives, but we have them, right?
That's a brilliant point, actually. It's true. Yeah. And they're making a lot of money. I mean, we're killing ourselves working hard. All we need to do is just photograph ourselves.
I'm treading on very, very worrying grounds here. Because I know like one influencer is going to post this and I'm done. No, but the reality is, these are jobs that we created as people. Right, so social media platforms were there, and then certain people got more following, and we created this need based on a technology that existed. A lot of people are migrating from conventional media to social media. Like, Tucker Carlson, for example, is a good example. He used to get 3 million viewers on his show on Fox. He gets 100 million viewers today on X. It's giving us a new paradigm.
So every sector is evolving, definitely. I mean, look, I want to end off with something a bit philosophical, perhaps on my part, something, that I'm sure many of you are feeling in the audience. I generally have a lot of anxiety, whether it comes to climate change, worried about environmental issues, what it means for the future of my child. I'm worried about geopolitics, We're deep in the news, so we see all the events that transpired over the weekend, horrific. We don't know what's going to happen going forward. And then I wonder, can technology, can AI save us in some way as humanity, where we keep on making wrong decisions that are going to hurt us in the long term? Do you think that we can rely on you, Minister of AI, to help us find solutions to global problems?
It's a lot of pressure on one individual. I don't think...
You and the guy from Spain, I think you said. Right?
Well, it's a lady from Spain.
It's a lady,
so there's diversity already. But look, I'm going to end on a positive note here on the philosophical side. No one who has changed the world has changed the world because of fear. Okay, so I don't think Elon Musk has pushed the envelope, or Nikola Tesla has pushed the envelope, or any of them, fearing about tomorrow. They pushed the envelope because they channeled this fear, and they channeled their energy towards something. I think if you have a fear, channel it. Channel it towards the future that you want to create. There's a lot of unknowns, and it is natural that we live in a world where there are unknowns, and we need to deal with them. My job is to tell you, first, empower yourself with the tools necessary, be aware of what is happening, and create this movement that will bring others with you. Because I don't think the future is going to be a selfish future. It's going to be a collective future.
It's going to be a great future.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Round of applause for His Excellency, Minister Omar Olama. What a pleasure. And thank you for picking me over ChatGPT. I hope it stays that way
it will
going
always be
forward.
that way.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, Minister. Great.